Hey Laowinners, it's Laowinners here with another video, and today I'm gonna kind of bring a video idea to you guys that's not the most positive thing in the world, but it's only fair after I did my top 5 things that I absolutely love about China. And today is the top 5 things I don't like about China or hate about China that I originally liked about China. Now, obviously when you move here for the first time, you're gonna find a lot of things to be completely different. So my number 5 is probably the first thing that I noticed about China, and that's the noise. Now, when I first came here, I thought the noise was super exciting because there's always something going on, whether it was KTVs like karaoke bars and clubs, and even the kind of volume that people spoke at was absolutely kind of ear-piercing, but at the same time, it was kind of like refreshing excitement compared to like the rural New York lifestyle that I lived. You go outside and you don't hear anything except the birds. Now, eventually you really start to miss that because I've been in China 7 years now and I can't find anywhere that is quiet. I can't find anywhere that is a place where I could relax and kind of turn off. And it was so weird and creepy that when I went back home to visit, I remember going outside at night and it kind of freaked me out. It was just like a ringing in my ears, like a ringing in my head because there was no noise. And it was kind of like years and years of noise pollution completely destroyed my ears and mind. So that is something I really liked in the beginning that I absolutely hate now. The next thing I was going to talk about was drinking culture, and that's something I obviously really loved doing after I came out of university. I was definitely a drinker. I enjoy my alcohol, and you know, when you come to China, it's an absolute paradise because pretty much every place you go, you'll be offered a drink, especially if you're out with Chinese men. But the difference is that unlike you kind of having fun with your buddies at home or kind of chatting over a beer at the bar, it's an intense competition. I mean, people are after your blood, seriously. Every time you go out with people like your boss or your coworkers or people that you just meet, drinking becomes an epic challenge, and they want to go compete against the foreigner, especially. Now, a lot of people down south can't drink very much, so they always lose this competition, so that just provokes them to keep doing it until they win. But it gets dangerous because if you drink baijiu or Chinese white alcohol, if you keep drinking that stuff, I mean, you can die. That stuff's 50% alcohol, and a lot of people go to the hospital for alcohol poisoning. That becomes old after a while when your liver starts to hurt. When you wake up and 2 days later, you're still not ready to go to work. It gets pretty bad, and eventually you realize that drinking is not so much about socializing or relaxing, but drinking is actually more of a face-saving maneuver or a face-gaining maneuver, and you're never really on top of that. Even if you win these drinking competitions, the only thing you go home with is, yeah, the foreigner beat the Chinese guys at drinking, so what? It gets old after a while, even if you're a massive alcoholic, to be honest. Now, this might sound a little ridiculous, but number 3 is actually the Mafia. Now, what do I mean by that? I'm not talking about the triads that you see in Grand Theft Auto or kind of the Mafia movies that you see. I'm talking about the fact that the Mafia permeates Chinese society at almost every level. And I'm not, again, it's not like this Italian mafioso grandois thing. I'm talking about theft. I'm talking about the fact that businesses are mostly involved with the Mafia in terms of like taking little bribes to do things here and there. I'm talking about the sex trade, and I'm talking about the general annoyance of having to deal with that kind of thing in Chinese society. For example, in Inner Mongolia, a lot of my friends up there were involved in some way, shape, or form with the Mafia, whether they own construction companies or whether they actually were getting paid to steal things that I found out about later, right? Now, all those things are kind of interesting when you come here as a young single male. You're like, wow, China's totally different. Like, where's the cops? Where's the law? But after a while, especially when you try to do business or try to kind of get things done here as a foreigner, you realize that a lot of things are either more expensive or more difficult to do because of this. And actually, I have some really nasty stories that I've never shared. You guys obviously know about the story of me getting chased by the Mafia on my motorcycle. You also know that my Mafia friend stole my motorcycle, my Kawasaki. But you don't know that actually I ended up hanging out with some Hong Kong Huizhou Mafia people. And I didn't mean to, but I had to talk to them about something, about education licenses and things like that. And I was invited to a karaoke bar. One of the men there, and again, this is one of the most scary and uncomfortable moments of my life, ended up taking advantage of, and I'm dead serious when I say this, of one of the KTV hostesses who's probably 16 or 17 years old in the bathroom as she cried. And I didn't know what to do in that situation. I couldn't do anything in that situation. And that kind of stuff really scared me and freaked me out, and that's not something I want to deal with anymore. So honestly, if you want to live like a pure, nice life here in China, you got to realize that a lot of the times the local mafia kind of deals with business. It's just kind of the way people get things done here, and that's really, really annoying at times and also incredibly depraved. One thing that I want to mention is actually the women. Now this might sound a little risque, it might sound a little judgmental, but what I mean is when you come to China as a single young male, especially from a foreign country, you realize that you do get a lot of attention from the girls, and that's absolutely true. There's no disputing that. Now, what you do with that newfound kind of popularity is up to you, but a lot of men find themselves getting very easily into casual relationships with Chinese girls when in fact most Chinese girls are not into casual relationships. So although they express interest in getting into a relationship, a lot of the foreign men that come here don't have the staying power or don't have the wish to get into a serious relationship or maintain a serious relationship. So although it seems easier to get a Chinese girlfriend than maybe you would back home, you got to keep in mind that a lot of these girls actually are looking for marriage out of this. Although this is very, very quickly changing, especially with the younger people, it's still a Chinese value to value dating turns into marriage. And you very quickly realize that after you've been in a long-term relationship with a girl and you actually decide to get married, you marry the whole family. And actually, I've done a video about this on ADVChina. Go check it out if you want to see it in more detail. But what I mean is, when I married my wife, I didn't know I'd be getting into this massive family affair where I have to buy a house, I have to spend a ton of time, get rid of all my privacy. Mother and father-in-law can come to my house whenever I want. Everything becomes theirs, and the family is just kind of always around. It's always a thing, right? So you kind of realize that you get into something a lot more serious and you get rid of a lot of your independence that you might have had back home in relationships that you're used to, right? Remember what I said about sound? Yeah. So that brings me to my last point, actually, and that is entrepreneurship. Everyone thinks of China as this kind of new frontier because they're like, it's this economic juggernaut. So all these people think that mainland China is actually this place where there's like no holds barred, no regulation on business. It's kind of like this massive, awesome place where they can go and make their fortune as their, you know, kind of Marco Polo-esque venture across the world. Yeah. When in fact, like, yeah, in the beginning, you'll find very quickly that because of low taxes, you can make quite a bit of money, like as an English teacher or something like that, or working, you know, in the IT sector, maybe as a project manager or something like this. Sure. If your company sends you over here. But when you go out to kind of have that Western or American dream, I can say, of opening your own business, you'll quickly hit hurdles. And this is what I found out after living here so long, is that eventually you get bored of kind of this wall that you hit in ESL and that kind of stuff. And you want to go try out something else. You have some ideas and you're like, there's definitely a market here for so-and-so. I'm going to open an Italian restaurant. I'm going to open a motorcycle shop. Yeah. I'm going to open up a school. I'm going to take business into my own hands, right? Yeah, because once you do it for a number of years, you kind of figured, oh, well, I can capitalize on this, or my boss isn't doing that, and then you try and do it and you find out. You hit the cultural wall of guanxi. And guanxi in the beginning is this really cool phrase that like a lot of foreigners like to throw around. It was like one of the first things I learned. Yeah. And I was like, oh, guanxi, I've been chatting to guanxi. Guanxi is like connections, right? And like, yeah, we brag at the bar about how much guanxi we just pulled. Yeah. This is a classic Laowai error. You're like, I got all this guanxi because my boss really likes me and she took me out to this dinner. We drank cognac. I got guanxi. You know, hung out with the government officials. Hung out with the government officials. That's the best Laowai thing. I used to say this all the time. It's like, I was at a government meeting. Yeah, it was really cool. You know, they let me into their dinner. You know, totally going to work for them in the future. Yeah. Bullshit. No. And this is my whole point. One thing you'll really, really quickly learn is that any dreams or aspirations you had back home are infinitely more difficult to do here. And I'm dead serious. Unless you have a Chinese investor or somebody really, really well connected to actually make your idea come into fruition, you are going to be in big trouble because you're not going to go apply for your business license in China as a foreign. And that's not without even mentioning the fact that you should speak Chinese before you go into business. You should understand like culture and customs before you go into business. Like without those things, I have a little story myself based on that thing. There's two people from America, married couple, lovely people from Virginia, top of the education tier. I mean, wrote a curriculum, like really high-end, PhDs and everything kind of people. And they thought that China, like you said, is this golden opportunity of success. And they came here, and they opened up a school that I actually work for and found out really quickly it just wasn't going to work. They pulled out, didn't they? They pulled out. They did end up pulling out and they went back to America. Unfortunately, really lovely people, but they just ended up getting, I hate saying this word when we're talking about business, but totally screwed over. I mean, the Chinese took over the business and it tanked. I found this out very quickly, is that if you do put it into local hands, because you have to, well, you have no choice. Anything happen. Right. you will lose your business.
Yeah, and these people were lovely and smart, like wicked smart. They knew everything there was to know about schools. They ran a bunch of successful schools in Florida and Virginia, I think. And then they came here thinking they can do the same thing, and it tanked. So if you think you know your stuff in the West, this is a different jungle, my friend.
You will actually go insane, and I found the more professional the person that comes here, the more irritated and pissed off that they get.
Yeah.
Seriously, they lose their mind.
They don't understand that whole side of the business.
For
yeah,
sure.
Absolutely. Yeah, again, you're right. I mean, you kind of, after your first couple of years, the rose-tinted glasses start to come off, and
those are not even rose.
And then you start seeing things for how they really are, and you start understanding more about Chinese culture, and you either have to take it and make something out of it, or go back home and cut your losses.
Now, if you want to see someone that's been here for about 3 years, right?
You're talking about me?
Yeah. You know this old dude?
That's me.
If you want to see his perspective on 5 things that he hates about China now as well, and again, this is coming from 8 versus 3 years, right? Go check out his video, 5 things I hate about China. Very, very entertaining stuff. It's fantastic.
Check it out on my channel. Link will be in the description below.
And if you love drunk women next to your room here that are just spouting off swear words and forcing men to drink, then come to China, because it's just bloody fantastic. Bloody fantastic stuff.
This woman is so loud. I don't understand.
Like, comment, and subscribe below. And by the way, please help us share out these videos, because that's really the biggest help that you can do.
Yeah.
Anyway, I will catch you on the next one. Take care, Laowinners.